I saw you said the world to see. Okay.
All righty, everybody. We have the homie Michelle here, soon to be doctor up in here. You know, I love throwing around them titles. I won't throw around the rest of your letters, although you have a lot of them, but I'll let you do that if you see fit. She may look familiar because we've had Michelle on before, and it was amazing the last time we had her, and I'm sure it'll be amazing again. Michelle is my friend in real life, and so we'll try not to be too silly. I don't know if we can help that though. But
Yeah. No.
Michelle, first, thank you for being here. Thank you for your time. I know we are not in commerce anymore, sitting around at in the dorms or at the rec center doing nothing.
We
We
are
got
adults.
jobs and stuff.
Yeah,
So thank you for your time. Thank you for being
absolutely.
here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Seriously, like thank you for asking me to share my narrative. I really do appreciate it because it's not, I don't take it lightly. Like this is not something like everybody doesn't ask you to, or I'll say everybody doesn't see value in your story enough to ask you to present it. So I thank you for the
Oh,
opportunity.
you're welcome.
Absolutely.
And I mean, I never want to assume I know everything about someone's story, but I know enough of your story to know like you haven't climbed no little bitty mountains. You ain't had no little bitty hills. You've had some huge tasks. You've had some huge mountains and hurdles in your life that you have like I as a friend, as somebody watching you, like I'm super proud because I'm just like that would have took me out. I would have, y'all wouldn't even be seeing me no more. Yeah, like no. So I
But
know some of the stuff you've been through is inexplainable. It's crazy.
yeah, no, I appreciate that. And to be honest with you, like I saw a meme or a GIF, whatever the kids call it, that said like it was like, God, who told you that I was your strongest soldier? Can you please take that back? Like
Okay.
I'm thinking, yeah.
I
Like,
didn't sign up for that.
a guy can like, I don't need Mount Everest. Just give me a molehill. That's
Yeah.
okay.
Let me
I can
uncheck
learn from
that
a
strong
molehill.
box.
Yeah, I'm like, do you not let people like learn from like little hills? Why is it gotta be a
Mm-mm.
mountain? Jesus
Yeah.
Christ. But yeah,
Yeah.
I
But
appreciate
so
it.
tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, where are you from? What was it like for you growing up?
Yeah, okay. So I was born in Pennsylvania, but I've been in Dallas since I was like 3 or 4. So pretty much I'm from Texas. I
Hmm.
just like to sound exotic and say that I'm from that I was born in a
Yeah.
different state. But yeah, so growing up, two-parent home in the beginning. My parents divorced in 96. No, they separated in 96, divorced in 98. So I guess that was probably not what you asked, but that was probably one of the first big transitions of my life that I've realized as an adult. The separation of my parents, while I'll be honest, my childhood, from my perspective, and I say from my perspective because I have 3 other sisters. So I want to be clear that this is Michelle's opinion of childhood. Um, childhood, I don't think I realized that it wasn't great. But emotionally and mentally, even spiritually in some ways, it was not a healthy environment. And I give grace and compassion to my parents because they did what they knew, and they didn't do what they didn't know. And quite frankly, I was that kid that I needed more attention. I needed, I needed more affection. I needed more hugs. I needed more affirmation. As I became an adult, I realized my love languages and quality time and words of affirmation are my 2 top love languages, and physical touch. Actually, they're all 3 my top love languages. So not receiving that as a child has directly impacted me as an adult. And again, I didn't realize this until I became an adult and really until I became started going through therapy. Um, I'm not gonna be the push for therapy on this chat. However, go to
Listen, as
therapy,
some
please.
future clinicians, go on and push it. Go on and push it because
Please.
I think, especially in our community as people of color, we just feel like we have to wear that badge of honor of how strong we are. And look at how much I can carry all by myself. And then I also think, as women, we're so used to helping others that we don't stop to make sure we're okay.
Mhm.
And then most time, it's too late, and we've
Yeah.
we've had our mental breakdowns. We're having our health issues in our physical body because our mental and our spiritual is out of order. So go on and push that therapy because we
Look
need
here.
it.
Look here, I'm not gonna lie to you, like as a future mental health professional, and as someone who has been in therapy for pretty much the last 7 years, if I'm being honest, off and on, but consistently the last two and a half, um, it has been a game changer for me. My therapist has allowed me to go into some places that I didn't realize were there, allowed me to unearth some things and some ways of thinking about myself and about the world that again I didn't know was there. When I was growing up in my household, it was just my household. You don't know that something is not okay until you know that it's not okay, until you realize that everybody else isn't doing this. Um, so I do encourage mental health, seeing a therapist, and I know that in our community, sometimes therapy is something that doesn't feel safe, and I completely understand that. What I will say is that there's more than one therapist out there. So if you go to one and they don't feel safe, don't give up. I know that going to therapy is such a vulnerable thing. Like you're going and you're by the time you've decided to go to therapy, it's because you're probably at your wit's end for most people. So I can imagine that going into that space and then going into an unhealthy space with a therapist that is either not for you or is not equipped, because look, therapists are people and everybody is not equipped. Um, a degree does not equip you to be empathetic. But anyway, I won't get on my soapbox. But I just encourage people to try again. Especially even look for if somebody can tell you, give you a reference. And I'll go as far as if you can't see a therapist, whether it's financial reasons or you can't find one, that at least look for a life coach. At least start somewhere and then watch and see how you can move about to start processing through those things. Because again, I'm here today, but I'm still in the midst of overcoming some stuff. Like you talked about Women's History Month. One of my goals this month is to stop saying sorry for things that I didn't do wrong. Because
Oh, wow.
as women, we say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And we're saying it in a people pleasing and a fawning way. Like we're saying it because it's really showing that we don't see ourselves as valuable or worthy in a certain area, or at least that we don't maybe even think that we're good enough in that space. So I've been working on not saying I'm sorry when I don't, one, when I don't really mean I'm sorry, and two, if I didn't do anything. And I've had a couple of situations this week, particularly, that I could have defaulted to just apologizing, but then I'm taking a step back and saying, well, Michelle, did you really do something wrong? And not in an objective way, not in a I ain't doing nothing in them type way, but no, seriously, Michelle, did you actually do something wrong?
Yeah.
And if you didn't, we're not apologizing. We're going to figure out a different way to respond.
It's
So,
so hard to find that balance between being unapologetic and then not coming off as somebody that's just popping off at everyone. It's like,
mhm.
I'm not sorry because I didn't do anything wrong. However, I'm still willing to have a casual and professional conversation with you. It's like, woo, that balance right there is.
And it takes a minute. You're not gonna get it
Mhm.
right the first time. Like I still said I was sorry just the other day. I was like, dang, Michelle, you supposed to stop that. But for example, and I will refrain from giving away who this person is, but situation with someone this week where they were offended by something that I did, and I did it as a response to protect myself and as a pattern of isolation. I think I've said it on the last Zoom, but for anybody that doesn't remember, I wrestled with major depression disorder, and I was in a depressive state. And when I'm in a depressive state, my pattern has been to isolate, because the thought is, let me get myself together so that I don't project my sadness or um anger or whatever onto other people. And I'll be honest, caveat, some of that was learned in the church. You need to go get right before you can be around people. And then some of it was just my pattern of seeing a friend of mine who dealt with heavy depression and understanding how heavy it was to be around them on a regular basis. And I never wanted to be that person to anybody else. So all that to say, my pattern had become isolating. But back to this individual who felt like me pulling back was a rejection of them. And when they shared that with me, I responded to them and said, well, that was not my intent. This is where I was. This is my pattern. This is something I'm working through. And I almost said, I'm so sorry that I made you feel that way. And I said, no, no, no. My brain said, no, no, no. In like 2 seconds, no, you didn't do anything wrong. Let them know what's happened. That is their stuff. They felt rejected. That's on them. And my hope and my prayer is that they are able to process through that. But I'm no longer taking ownership for things that I didn't intend to do or for my process of overcoming my pattern of isolation. So anyway,
Amen. No, I
I
feel
say
you.
all of
I've
that.
been working on giving myself as much grace as I give to everybody else. And it's kind of like, oh, wow, maybe it's okay to actually take time for yourself, get to know yourself,
Yeah.
and take time to work on being the person you want to be if you're not that person. And there's definitely ups and downs along the way. And it's crazy because you feel like, okay, if I tell you what's going on, I'm going to get rejected. If I tell you what's going on, you're going to smother me. If I tell you what's going on, then we have to have a whole conversation about it. And I just really need time alone. Like so many different things. But my thing has definitely been not being so apologetic for every single thing and giving myself the same grace I give to everybody else, if
Yeah,
not more, because I know me and what I've been through and what I'm dealing with.
that part. Because I mean, the reality is, quiet as it's kept, oh crap, I lost my train of thought. Sorry, y'all. But quiet as
Listen,
it's
you
kept,
in good company because you know once I'll be
I
talking, I'll be
mean,
like, and
it went, and I'm trying to
good.
grab it back. But yeah, I mean, we have to understand that everybody's in their own process. And I think sometimes we forget that and we we think that someone is treating us a certain way and it's really not. That person is just in their own tunnel vision trying to figure things out. And I'll be honest, I was very proud of myself for not responding in the way, come on, words, thank you. But that's what I was trying, that's what I was thank you, thought it came on back. I'm learning how to respond and not react. As someone who is a sensitive person and an emotional, just a natural emotional person, I get my feelings hurt quite a bit. And people will never know because people are like, you're not sensitive. Just because I'm not like sad face crying all the time, I don't mean I'm sensitive. I get my feelings hurt all the time. But I'm teaching myself, again, this comes back to us realizing what's going on and then deciding to do something different. I'm teaching myself how to respond and not react because what I could have done is tell that person, that ain't what I meant. You wrong. You should have done. It ain't my fault. All the shoulders, all the hands, all, you know, and that's what I would have normally done, if I can be honest. But I'm trying to do something different. So I said, you know what, Michelle? What you can do in this situation is respond differently so that this person knows that you still care about them and care about their feelings, that you're bold enough to and courageous enough to be honest with them and stand up for yourself, and that you're not indicting them or judging them or criticizing them for feeling how they're feeling, because their feelings are valid too. So, I'm just trying to grow in these streets because it's
I feel
exhausting
you.
sometimes.
I feel you. And to want to develop a genuine, authentic relationship with people. Like, I can apologize when I'm not sorry. I can do whatever you want us to do. I can just say whatever you want to hear, but that's not going to lead to a genuine and authentic relationship. And eventually we're going to hit that wall anyway. So we might as well work out the kinks as we go anyhow, instead of playing. And then down the road, it's like, who are you even? Like, I don't know you. I don't know me. What happened? So
That
get it
part,
on out the way. Oh,
that part. And the thing we don't realize, like building relationships is hard. Like not building, maintaining relationships is hard. Like I will say that is one of the lessons that I have been learning this first quarter of the year, like how I showed up in relationships. And in my mind, which ties back to childhood, in my mind, as long as I'm loyal, then I'm the best friend, I'm the best sister, I'm the best co-worker, I'm the best daughter, whatever. As long as I'm loyal and they know I'm going to always be there, loyalty is not enough. Because what loyalty will do is keep you people pleasing to keep them around. And tying back to my childhood, the feeling, not even feeling, the abandonment that I experienced and the rejection that comes with abandonment, the what that tells a child is I have to perform in order to receive love, care, patience, whatever. And that was my pattern. That's what I learned. I needed to perform. I needed to meet everyone else's need in order for them to like me. And I brought that into my friendships and my other relationships. And in the last 3 months, I've just really been trying to unearth or divorce myself from that and then cultivate what a healthy relationship really is. And I had to take, I had to do so. What did Michael say? Looking in the mirror. I had to do a lot of looking in the mirror because in my mind, I do this for you, I do that for you, I do this, I do that. Yeah, but what does that mean when you're not holding yourself accountable? What does that mean
Man,
when you've now made these people in your life idols out of fear of being abandoned? When you would bend over backwards for some people and neglect others because this person is feeding into what you didn't get as a child. It's nobody's responsibility to fulfill what I did not get as a child. It
amen.
just isn't. It
Mm-hmm.
is my job to figure out how to fill those voids and then to go to God or whatever I believe in God, to go to God and ask God, how do I fulfill this place?
Yeah. And
Because
it's crazy hearing you say all this because you kind of know a little bit of what went on when my father passed. And you know, it was a reality check of it doesn't matter how you treat other people sometimes. Like
mm-mm,
if you're treating people kind just so you can, give yourself a pat on the back so you can feel good about yourself, so you could check that box,
mhm,
it's not really going to get you anywhere. And you can treat people right and still get rejected, still get abandoned, still be mistreated. And then you still gotta clean your face and get up and figure out how to continue living your life.
yeah, no, for real. Like, I haven't shared this with many people, but I don't mind sharing it here because it'll be in the book. Uh, like when my fiance passed, I was treated very poorly by some of the people in his family. And these were people that I hadn't even met. But the position of being a fiance and not a wife, for them gave them the I guess the clearance to treat me a certain way. I'll never forget some of the words that were said to me. I would never forget some of the ways that I was treated. But also, like to your point, people don't treat folks the way that they should be treated. Like they don't, if it's not going to benefit them, for some people, they could care less. They could care less how they treat you. But then I'm here 7 years later, and I still remember what it felt like when some of the things that they said to me. But they probably gone on about their life. They don't know. They don't know that what you said to me at my fiance's burial is still with me. They
Yeah,
don't know
man.
what you said to me at the hospital is still with me. They don't know how the way you treated me. And one person specifically said to me, well, we'll make sure that you know what we're going to do for him because, we know you're just a fiance, not the wife, but we'll make sure that you know what I will never forget those words.
Yeah.
And and I think I say all that to say we have a choice. We can
Mm-hmm.
either let those words, because I'm not gonna sit up and act like I wasn't mad, honey.
Yeah,
It's
no.
pissed
No,
with
we
me.
mad, but
Okay. But I had to get to the point, and it's like, Michelle, that's unfortunately that's their ignorance because
mm,
they didn't. So they didn't know what you meant to him or what he meant to you. They didn't know the dynamic of our relationship.
mhm.
So I have a friend of mine that tells me all the time, give people they stuff back. She says the other S word. But
Mhm.
she said, give people their stuff back. Don't take on other people's guilt, insecurity, projection, blah, 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 blah. And again, I'm trying to tie it back to the first question. I learned these things in childhood. I learned how to take on other people's projections. And in my adulthood, I'm learning how to give them back. Because,
Yes,
honey,
let it go. Let it go.
I don't want
Even if
to,
you don't want it back, I ain't holding on to it. I'm letting it go.
it's just in the air.
Yeah, wherever it fall, it's not welcome here. I feel about
Exactly.
that, like, ooh, man, so much. And it's crazy because it's not like you just grow up and what you went through in childhood just goes away because it shapes who you are. It shapes your emotions. It shapes your perception of the world around you well into adulthood. Like it becomes who you are. And like you said, the words that people said to you at such a already horrible time in your life, and it's like you don't even have the decency to like be kind to me. Like,
Yeah.
but I unfortunately I get it. I wish I
Yeah.
did. I
I
really wish
know.
I didn't, but
I
unfortunately I
look
do.
here. I tell people all the time. I said I really wish I could say I don't understand.
Yeah,
That
I
would be
wish.
ideal. But everything
Unfortunately,
like
I understand, but and not like, oh, because I'm such a strong woman, but it's like I have
Mhm.
used the lesson to just improve as to be a better person, to improve on me in general. So I know you mentioned like your fiance passing and kind of what you went through with that process, but what are some other pivotal things, other life-changing things that you've experienced?
Yeah. So let me see. Let's see. Childhood was one, divorce was one. Um, well, not my divorce, my parents' divorce. I want to make that clear to the people. Death of my, and then being in ministry. Um, I was in formal ministry, what I would call formal ministry, meaning pulpit ministry, from the age of 23 to about 33. So yeah, so about for 10 years. Um, and that heavily shaped me. It shaped me in good ways, but it also shaped me in ways that I'm now having to process through. And I keep using the word divorce, but divorce myself from. It shaped me, it shaped my ways that I interacted with God, the way that I responded to God, the way that I pray. Um, I went to church on Sunday for the first time in like 2 years, maybe. And I remember thinking on my way to church, this is the first time that I can remember that I went to church because I wanted to. As a kid, you go to church because your parents tell you to. As someone in college, you go to church because you feel guilty for the stuff that you do Monday through Saturday. And then I was in ministry for 10 years. I went to church because I had to, because that was what I was saying that I was called to. I am called to it, but not pulpit ministry. So again, I say that, and then after that, I went to church because again, I felt guilty and tired of people asking me, what's your church home? And me saying I didn't have one. The guilt and the weight that comes with, so where do you go to church? And then the second you say you don't, it's going to be either some type of conversion statement or you should come to my church. We got this ministry and that ministry. And those things are good. I'm not saying that they're not. I will say sometimes we don't always identify that church may not be the place that the person needs to go. Church may be the place that the person eventually goes to, but in that moment, what does that person actually need? And for a long time, the church wasn't what I needed. What I needed was
Amen.
my foundation to be rebuilt in God and not in the religious institution. So all that to say, ministry was a pivotal life-changing moment because I was so young and I didn't know my full calling, let alone who I was as a person. Because 23 is young. We don't think 23 is
Listen,
really young.
I tell working with kids, because they're all, when I turn 18, even my own kids, I'm like, you still ain't gonna know nothing. And
Mm.
you still won't know anything when you're
I,
18. And at best, you might know something when you're 25.
I used to hate
Maybe.
I hated when the old ladies used to say, just keep living. I hated that. I was like, I've lived enough life.
Now look at us. We didn't kept living, and I'm like, child,
Just,
by and by,
just keep living.
it make a little more sense to you. But
Say bye,
I,
bye.
oh man,
I
I
I'm yet holding on.
definitely, yeah, I have that complicated church relationship as well. Not to the extent I had the opposite problem where it was like I knew I'm still unfolding, but it's like I knew I was called to more, but because of the churches we were going to, it was more appropriate for me to sit there and be pretty and watch the kids. Or it was more
Mm,
appropriate for me to work in the children's ministry, but that's it. That's all for a woman to do here. And it was just like, Lord, why am I here? Why are you calling me to something more? And then
mm,
sending me to these places where I can't do anything. And now looking back, I was like, there's still so much to learn in that. But again, being so young and immature, I'm like, I'm ready to go. Let's do this. And it's like,
Yeah.
go sit back and learn. But I can definitely relate to, I want to go to a place where I can learn and grow and be safe and branch out if I want to branch out, or stay in the pew if I want to stay in the pew. I don't want to feel pressured to perform at church.
And
I
that's
want
the
to just go and grow and find my way through that. And then when you talk about people like, well, what church do you go to? And it's like, well, I went here and I went there for a little bit and I was over here. I mean, we have church hopped. And
yeah.
our time, like me and Gerard in our marriage, we've been to a few different kinds of churches, trying to find that place for
Mm-hmm.
us, and where
Mm-hmm.
it's not just working in the ministry and
Yeah.
it's not just sitting in the pew. And that's a difficult balance to
Yeah.
find, especially when so many churches don't really align with the Bible. And but I know, I feel like me and you we could go for hours with that topic, but we won't even we won't
Look,
even get into that.
but I think you made mention about ministry. Like you really, like, I know for me, it's all I knew. Pulpit ministry was all I knew because I mean, I grew up in the church, but I didn't grow up in the church. Like we went to church and I was a praise dancer, but I didn't know what went on behind the veil, you know? And I was an usher. I had my white gloves. So, but I didn't know what was behind the veil. So when I was in like ministry, in my mind, I'm thinking all it is either the pulpit or not. I didn't know any better. And while I could craft a good sermon, I'm realizing I was a teacher. I'm not a preacher. And yes, teaching is a part of preaching, but like the theatrics that come along with preaching, which, and then people don't like the word theatric, but honestly, it really is because you're drawing the people in. Like we can't think that Jesus didn't have a sense of dramatics to him that pulled people into him so that he could profess the word to them. But all of that, it was my first sermon was 8 minutes. I'll never forget, it was 8 minutes because I was like,
I'm so glad I finally returned your DVD of your first sermon to you years later.
child, I
It
forgot.
took a few years, but I
Guess
finally gave
what?
it back.
I don't even know what it is. I don't even know where it
I
is.
should have kept it.
Probably. But yeah, like my first sermon was 8 minutes because I had my 3 points. I had my support for my 3 points. I had my scripture for my 3 points. We're teaching. Let's get it in, get it out. So I didn't realize until probably, honestly, like 6 months ago that because I always felt guilty about not embodying the performative side of preaching. I was like, I'm not effective because, people aren't being moved by what I'm saying, or they're not doing it. Come to find out, people were being moved all the time. They just were taking notes. They ain't had time to shout and fall out because they were taking notes. And and I'm not saying that to pump me up. I'm just saying that the gift in me has always been teaching. And now knowing that my calling is going to be through mental health. It was always meant for mental health within religious spaces. And they talked in seminary, they talked about the call within the call. And now I'm realizing that. But at the time, I didn't know any better. And I was a woman. Not that I say that to say like women are not treated equally in the institution. And it's not every institution, but generally speaking, they are not treated equally. They just aren't. And we need to stop acting like they are. Like we need to really have a hard conversation. And I don't know what that looks like within religious spaces, es- especially in BIPOC religious spaces. Um, the value that women, like we bring more than just sitting in the pew and supporting the ministry. We have something to say, and God has gifted us to say what thus saith the Lord. So I went King James with the thing. I
We
heard the
riding
thing.
with it. We feeling
I heard the saith, the th. But yeah, like, as someone in ministry, to your point, I knew I was made for more. And not that being in the church and serving in the church is not good enough, but I knew for me there
yeah.
was something more that God was calling me to. And it wasn't until I left the institution and then went through that journey, and I'm still on that journey of redefining what mine and God's relationship is, and seeing what that looks like in relation to the institution, because I know that I'm also called to work within the institutions to help, and I won't say improve it, but to help it go to the next
Yeah.
place whatever God has. So
Yeah,
yeah.
you definitely, I am I joke a lot, but I'm not knocking anybody. Like
Mm-mm.
it actually is very difficult to go in and be in that supportive role. Whether it's, you're a minister's wife or you're a mother or you work in the children's ministry, none of that is easy. So please don't take it as me knocking anybody. Like if you show
Mm-mm.
up and you're faithful and you doing what God has called you to do, it does not matter about anything else that you're doing. Like I'm gonna joke and laugh about what I've experienced, but I don't want anybody to take it as me knocking what you're doing because it's
No.
different from what I'm doing. Because there are some areas in which I am not gifted to operate in. I have one friend back home when we were all going to Lake Point, and I would call her top greeter. Like she's just one of those people. She just has that natural ability to make people feel comfortable for their walls to come down. She welcomes you in. She makes you feel like you're the most important person there is. That's not really my gift. And I'm gonna be like, hey, y'all can go in there and sit down. I'm not a
Facts.
reader. And
Facts.
so,
Facts.
even now the church where Gerard works, I was like, you want me to work the greeting table? And he was like, we want people that are, warm and friendly with friendly faces at the greeting table. I said, oh, well, I go back there with the kids then because it's early in the morning too. So I'm just gonna be staring at people. But I know my role. I can't be
Yeah.
everything to everybody. There's somebody else for that. So
Yeah. No, and
definitely
I'm glad you said that too, because I know that now that I'm looking back, like I know that the way that we're talking, specifically some of the things I said may come off as if you only doing stuff in the church, then you not that's not it. Because the church was my foundation. Let me start there. And I appreciate my foundation. For me, God took me elsewhere. And there's nothing wrong with being in the church. Like you said, I probably didn't need to be a preacher. I needed to be a ghostwriter for the preachers, right? I can write your mean 3-point sermon, have all your support and your footnotes, all that good stuff. But being able to give it, it's not my strong suit.
And I liked how you slid in seminary school. So Michelle may not say it, but y'all, she is like she has her degree from seminary school. Is it divinity or theology? I can't ever remember.
Divinity. Mm-hmm.
So she has her MDiv and she is a licensed minister. Like she's checked all the boxes to be ranked wherever you have I ain't church fancy. However folks rank folks, Michelle checks all the boxes when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Degree,
I appreciate.
experience, licensing, she has it all. She's very humble about it, but I believe in dropping all my friends' letters. So yes, Michelle has it all.
Oh, I appreciate that. But yeah, I like to think of myself as, at least on my LinkedIn page, I call myself a heretical theologian because I love theology. I love the process and the analytics of theology, but I also I'm not going to co-side some of this negative theology. So call me a heretic. When we look at the real definition of a heretic was somebody that thought outside the box, and that's okay with me. If we break it down to the layman's term. But yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, absolutely. And me knowing you, I know that you will be like, no, I'm not doing that.
I
No,
just
we're not
I
doing
just like to ask questions. I like to
that.
help, and maybe that's the mental health professional in me. Like, so how did you get to this conclusion about this passage of scripture? I like to ask questions. So tell me how you got there, because then we can figure out, okay, well, does this apply to you? Does it apply to everybody, or is it just incorrect?
You bring up a really good point. It's not just about some people, yes, like you are called to the church, you are called to be in that building, like that's where you're going to do a
Mhm.
lot of your footwork. But then, like, I'm similar to you in the sense that even though I've been drawn to the church, even though so much of me is church and in the church and formal ministry, I too am called to the mental health field. I actually finished my bachelor's degree from commerce in 2010. And I was going to go straight into getting my MSW, but it didn't make sense to me at the
Mhm.
time in my grown mind because I knew everything at 21. I went and did something else.
Mhm.
And then 12 years later, I found myself circling back to getting my master's in social work with my clinical license because that's really what I'm called to, is where I'm drawn to. And my one of the professors at my school, I go to Liberty University. I was talking with him, working with him during my internship this summer, and he has an MDiv and an MSW, which is a master's in social work. And he was like, I've used my master's in social work and ministry more than I've used my MDiv.
Mm-hmm.
And I think so many times we just forget about that people part and that
Yeah.
relationship part of ministry. I'm not just here so you can hoop and holler and then go home. Like, I'm here so your heart can be transformed. And so all that gunk that's just been building up for years, so we can really like sort through that. And not everybody, of course, because that would be foolish to say everybody, but in so many places it seems like they have forgotten about the people and the
Yeah.
relationship part, and that we're here to help heal the broken, not just fill seats.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, to kind of to what you're saying, and this is gonna sound like a shameless plug, and it does, I don't intend for it to, but I just got back from I should have called y'all now that I think about it. I was just in Georgia. But anyway, I was at a conference. I'm sorry. I just had a whole break. Anyway, but yeah, I just came back from a conference with the Christian Association of Psychological Studies, and I presented on like navigating mental health challenges in your church. And one of the portions that I presented on was the 8 dimensions of wellness. Like we don't, to your point, we don't look at how our theological concepts and ideals help shape the mind and can shape them in positive or negative. And then how we show up in these religious spaces impacts people's wellness, either at psychological level, financial level, emotional, spiritual, occupational, all these different things. The church and religion as a whole impacts all of those. And statistics show that people who are connected to religious spaces typically have a higher level of positive well-being, but then also some of the research shows that they don't. Some of the research shows that the religious spaces were actually the authors of the trauma. And then so when someone's coming into your church, sorry, I'm going into my presentation. So when someone's coming into your church and they do have major depression or schizophrenia or bipolar, how are you really going to serve them? Do you have a plan in place, or are you just going to escort them out and tell them that they're not welcome? And then what does that do to the psyche of a person to come into a religious place when they already know that they have a mental illness? That no people aren't unaware that I know I'm coming into a space with a mental illness. I'm more than likely coming into this space to find safety and to find community and to find help. And then you tell me I have to leave because I'm disrupting a service. Like that seems very counterproductive to me,
Mhm.
and we're turning people away. And I say this all the time. We have to be careful because we do have blood on our hands, and we're going to be held accountable for the
Mhm.
people that we turn away, because that is the one.
Mhm.
You're looking at the 99, but that
Yeah.
person that is sitting in your pew and just so happened to see a figure in the right corner of their mind because they've been diagnosed with schizophrenia, you're telling them they have to leave because of this illness. That's the one, but you're willing to just focus on the 99. So I
And
just want to.
even getting into children's ministry is the same. If
Mhm,
like I get it, and that may be, a money issue that also should be addressed, which is another soapbox I'm not going to get on. But you
mhm,
actually need people who are trained to
yeah,
handle children who may have autism, to handle
absolutely,
children who have sensory issues, to handle children that may be emotionally disturbed, so that they still get the gospel too, and so that their parents can still come to church. I am
absolutely.
totally fine with you coming to church, dropping your children off in the children ministry, and you go sit in the sanctuary just so you can get a break from your child. Your child is safe. Your
Mhm.
child should be amongst, believers, a place where they're going to be taken care of. And eventually that word is going to stick. But like you said, it's just so much of come here already put together
Yeah.
so that we can brag about and take credit for how you're put together. Until we find out you're not put together, then you got to go. Like I really,
Absolutely.
and I can honestly say, I feel like with our age group, we're over it. Like I
Hmm.
think our age group is over that, and we just like broken, battered, dirty, crazy, whatever people have called you, come. Like, cause we the same thing. We
Because
we
we
throwed
all
off
broken
too.
after this pandemic. We all broken, battered, torn, cut up, bruised. Everybody,
Yeah,
except the powers that be. But that's a different conversation for a different day.
yeah, they're fine.
I
They're fine.
won't talk, I won't
Yeah.
get on my slight conspiracy theory. But yeah, like, we're all, I'm one, as someone who wrestles with major depression, I could have been one decision away from being anybody else, any of the individuals that I've worked with in mental health.
Mhm.
Period. I could have, like, I just could have been. So to place yourself, or any of us, to place ourselves above anybody else, is ludicrous,
Yeah.
and it's not kingdom, and
No.
it's not human.
Yeah.
Like, we're supposed to be in community, we're supposed to be in relationship. And when we ostracize people, we are doing the complete opposite.
Yeah.
And I'm not here for it. I'm not
Mm.
gonna lie to you, I'm not here for it. And it's something that I'm not gonna sit up here and act like I'm sitting on some throne. It's something that I have to work at, because sometimes I don't want to be bothered.
Yeah.
I just, to be honest, I don't want to be bothered. But then I think, God, sometimes you don't want to be bothered with me. So, like, who
Yeah.
am I? Who am I? So I'm human, and I'm not gonna sit up here and act like I do everything perfect. But I do know that I keep in the back of my mind, like, Michelle, you could have been one decision away, one chromosome away, one genetic alteration away from being exactly who the person that you're trying to ostracize. And
Yeah.
we just got to do better.
Yeah,
We
we really do. And like I said, and you'll hear like with some of the other women that I've also done these with, a lot of people are branching out just from let me just do ministry in the church, and we're really infiltrating all the different markets because that's how it always should have been. It should
Mm-hmm.
have never been, oh, you come to me. You if
Mm-hmm.
you need something, you could like the church should have been out there, like the body should be out there. Jesus moved around. He went to different towns and different places and healed people. We see him even going to some people, like going out of his way to reach some people
Mm-hmm.
and not turning people away. Now he spoke the truth and some people walked away. That was
Yeah.
different. But I mean, just this idea, like I couldn't imagine Jesus being like, if somebody looking for me, they can come find me in Nazareth.
The,
They know where the temple is.
or even thinking
Like,
that,
no.
or even thinking that working in the church is the only way to do ministry. Like, I look at the disciples, they all had different occupations. We're supposed to be in the world and not of it. We're not supposed to only bring our gifts into the building. We're supposed to be in mental health. We're supposed to be in science. We're supposed to be in public health. We're supposed to be in politics. We're supposed to be in all of these places, because God needs to be in all of those places. Not that God needs us to, but God is using us to be in those places, because God could wipe us all out like Thanos in a heartbeat if they wanted to. That would just be it. But God is giving us grace and opportunity to impact people in these spaces. And I know we kind of got off onto the church, but and that's fine. We always gonna
Yeah.
go there.
I mean,
But
it's an important conversation to have though, because I think there's like, and I would always say, what happens when God starts delivering these people that we've looked down on as a church? Where do they go? They're not
mm,
going to feel comfortable coming to us, and we're supposed to be seasoned and we're supposed to be, knowledgeable, and we're supposed to disciple these people and mentor these people, and they're not even going to feel comfortable around us because of the poor reputation that
mhm,
believers have in general and the poor reputation that the church has in general, not each and every single church, but overall, the church just doesn't have a very good reputation for helping people and supporting people. And so, like I said, though, I see a lot of people in our age group, and what our age group is, though, that ain't your business. But there's a
yeah.
lot of people in our age group who
Mhm,
we're over it, and we are ready to go get whoever we got to get for
yeah.
building the kingdom. And that's exciting and terrifying because, the pendulum swings,
Yep.
and then you get
Yep.
people too far radical on the other side. But um, it's encouraging to know that people are not just thinking we got to show up here and do ministry, but we got to go out there and
Mhm,
be it and do it. So I'm excited about that. And like I talk about it all the time, like here I am. I never thought I would do this. I
mhm,
like what? And people are like, oh yeah, I could see you doing this. I'm like, see me where and how do it? I
mhm,
couldn't, but okay,
mhm.
I'm doing it because I believe that's what God calls me to do. And then the church we go to, I still help out in the ministries there too, because that's important too. But I think we can't just get so laser focused on I have to only be here and I have to only be there that we forget about living our lives as believers and letting that be our ministry.
Yeah, and I think, to your point, the caveat is having the duality. Yes, there's nothing wrong, and I think that because some people may take from this conversation that being in the church is not the answer, or wrong, or whatever. So I don't, if anybody's thinking that, that's not what we're saying. What we're saying is balance. There is nothing wrong with being in the church. There is nothing wrong with serving in the church, but also don't let that be the only thing that you do. Live your life, experience the world, experience a different field. Like just live your, like to your point, live your life, but also work in the church. But don't let either one have more weight than the other. And I think collectively as humanity, that's the main thing we struggle with is putting all our eggs in one basket. And then we look over like, oh, this basket empty. Well, yeah, because you put them all over here. And then we try to put some over here and then we end up filling this basket. And now this basket empty. And it's like, just find balance. It's
Yeah.
balance.
And that really brings me to my next question. How does Michelle find balance between, Michelle about to be Dr. Michelle, but Minister Michelle? We didn't even touch on you being like a former business owner, but you already put the plug in there with your book coming up. Like, how do you balance all of this but still taking care of you?
Honestly, I didn't until about a month ago. Look, look here. I ain't got time to be lying to these folks. Look here, I done been through too much to lie. I didn't until probably about a month ago. And I went through maybe not the worst, but a very, very dark, depressive episode pretty much for the whole month of February, until maybe like the second week of March. Had no energy to do anything, had no, couldn't get my brain to stop, just chaos in my brain. Couldn't bring myself to get myself out of bed. The snoozing my alarm 3, 4 times in the morning. Like these were signs for me that I was in a depressive episode. And um, I made a decision that I just didn't want to be like that anymore. And I say that, but I also want to say this: depression is a chemical imbalance. So for anyone that may hear this that thinks, oh, I don't want to be depressed anymore, therefore I shouldn't. It's a chemical imbalance. That's in your brain, that's in your makeup, and that's okay. You just have to learn how to manage it. Because I think sometimes we think, oh, if I just pray enough, it'll go away. If I just do enough, it'll go away, blah, blah. It's science. God can deliver us from anything. However, God may also have you walk through that thing and figure it out. And that's where I am. I'm figuring out how to care for myself and I'm having to be intentional. I think that's the key. Like, child, I'm doing my nails and such. And it's the little things. Like, don't get me wrong. Everybody has their own thing, but it's the little things. Like making sure I put on clothes that make me feel, like just showing up, really, that make me feel good, that I'm showing up in the world in the way that I want to be perceived. Um, I think being intentional about doing those things is what has helped me in the last few weeks. And I just have to keep going because I'm not going to sit up here and say there aren't moments where I'm like, "Ugh, I don't feel like doing A, B, C, and D." And it's natural self-care, but I'll be like, I don't feel like doing it. And then I'll recognize, nope, that's linked to depression. Let's be intentional. I won't say make, let's be intentional about doing this because we know we're going to feel better after we do this. We know that we're going to look better after we do this. We know that this is going to help us sleep soundly at night. So I've been having to be intentional about self-care, very intentional about boundaries. My phone calls on do not disturb at 9 and I mean it. Uh, and being intentional about the way I speak to people, like I was sharing earlier about how I respond to people. Those type of things are what is helping me to be able to manage all of these things. Um, Taking a small break from school. I don't mind saying that. I talked to my advisor. I'm taking a little small break from school because I need it. Because I had so many things happen in my life back to back to back, and it just became compounded. And I just said, I need a minute. My committee chair understood. She said, I get it. When do you want to come back? And then her follow-up question was, well, what are you going to do while you're gone? Because if you're still doing the same things that when you're gone, you're not going to get any better. I said, well, she didn't have to get on me like that, but she right. I said, well, I'm going to start crocheting. I'm going to start sewing. I'm going to watch a little TV. I'm working. Like, just being intentional. I know I keep saying it, but it really has to be an
No,
intention.
that's real talk.
It
That
can't
is
just be,
real talk. It doesn't happen passively. And I think
mm-mm.
we can slip and slip and slip and slip and find ourselves in this fallen place where it's like, dang, how did I get here? But if you were intentional, back then, when you woke up and you were like, I don't really feel like it today. If you would have been like, well, I don't feel like it, but I know I need to do it anyway. And I know, I'm putting it very simply, because it's not always that simple. And sometimes
Mhm.
just waking up and rolling out of the bed and throwing on sweatpants is your victory for the day. And that's fine
Absolutely.
too. But
Absolutely.
like the
Been there.
intentionality of, I know that, or I will say being aware of yourself,
Hmm.
not just I am whoever everybody else says I am, but taking that time to get to know you so that you can recognize that it's not just I'm tired because I was up late and I got a lot going on, but it's like, no, this is slipping into something more. And I have the authority and I have the power to choose to be
Hmm.
intentional about my next steps.
Hmm.
And it doesn't always, it's not always pretty. And I think that I talked about it, a few weeks ago when I just did the introduction. I kept waiting for me to have it put together. I was like,
Hmm.
when I have it together, when I have this figured out, when I know, my next step and the next step and the next step and the next step, and I have it all planned out and each thing on my calendar and each thing on my journal and each thing on my planner, then I can go. And it's like, that's not reality. Like
Hmm.
sometimes you just gotta go and you gotta put one foot in front of the other and you gotta say, like, I need a break. Or sometimes you gotta say, I'm slipping and I need to fix it. I would have been done with school in December, but I had to spread my classes out because
Hmm.
I had to go back to work. And
Hmm.
I was just like, I was able to catch it though. I was able to catch those thoughts that said, you can push through, you can do this.
Ooh, girl,
You
because those are
you
lies.
got it. And it's
Those
just
are
like,
lies.
I can, but I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to be stressed out. I don't want to be, telling my family, get away from me. I'm busy. Don't come in my room. Don't talk to me right now. We can't go nowhere this weekend because I'm busy with work. Like we've had so many transitions and deaths and even births with other family members that it's just like I want to make sure I'm putting my time and my attention where it belongs. So instead of me, beating myself up about not being able to carry everything, I was like,
Mhm.
I'm putting this down.
Yeah.
I'm putting it down.
Yeah.
And I really wrestled. I prayed and I prayed and I was like, Lord, do I need to do this? Are you going to give me the strength to push through? Should I just push through? Should I just push through? And it's like, I can just picture the Lord being like, why?
Yeah.
Why do you feel like you need to, like, it's some stuff you do have, it's just difficult that you have to push through, but some stuff
Mhm.
you can put down. So put it
Facts. Facts. And you're not alone in that. It's so funny. It's so funny you brought this up because like that was a lot of what I went through before I made a decision to take a break from school. Like one, I'm a failure. I knew I should have, I should have done this. I should have done that. I could have done this. I could have done that. But dadgummit, I had a lot of life transitions and they take a toll on you. And, going through like to your, like you said, I can just push through. I could just push through. But Michelle, you've been pushing through for a long time, baby. You tired. Not only are you tired, you're burned out. And pushing through is not the way to cure burnout. So I had to just like sit with that, like, this is what you need to do for you. Get out of your thoughts of what everybody else is doing. Because you look at your other cohort members, they're moving and they're doing that. And then you realize they really not. We all just trying to figure, you know what I'm saying? And this is no shade to them, but like we're all at different places in this journey because this doctoral journey, anybody that's gone through it, it's just not for the weak. It's not. But like you're comparing yourself to these people and thinking that, well, other people are pushing through, or other people are doing this, other people that you realize everybody's just trying to make it. And then you have to ask yourself, why do you even care so much to compare yourself to others? Like, instead of just celebrating where you are and then celebrating where they are. So yeah, we don't talk about the feelings of failure you have to push through. We don't talk about the feelings of even guilt. Like I really
down.
had a moment where I felt like I was letting my family down. I told my mom, I was like, Mom, I know you've been cheering me on. My family's been cheering me on. I just feel like if I take a break, I've let y'all down. And she looked at me, she said, Girl, you got to stop being so hard on yourself. And that's exactly what she said. And I
Yeah.
was like, I didn't see it as being hard on myself. I felt like I was letting them down because they were like,
Yeah.
graduation 2025, blah, blah, blah. And it may not be that. And she had to tell me, like, you've been carrying around this weight of thinking that you're disappointing people. And that's just not what's actually happening at all.
Yeah.
She's like, we just happy that you're doing it. We just happy
Yeah.
we just know you're gonna finish. We're not worried about it. So, okay,
Yeah.
well, excuse me.
Yeah. Oh, my
But
bad. Sorry. I didn't realize
something,
I was even okay then.
That part. Something else, back to the question you asked me about how I'm taking care of myself. I can't remember the exact question, but
Then how you balancing it all? But yeah, how you
how,
taking care of yourself?
how am I balancing? I'm I'm not on social media as much. And I know that's what everybody say, stop doing. I'm not saying don't stop doing social media, because for me, social media didn't become a comparison thing. For me, I just recognized how much I was disassociating from life by
Mm-hmm.
just scrolling for hours. I mean, literally, I would be on my phone for hours in a day. You get that message, you've been scrolling a while. Have
Yeah.
you take a break? I'm like, I
Get
got
out
that
my
like
business, technology lady.
and I was getting it like 3 or 4 times a day, because it had nothing to do with comparing. It was just I completely took myself out of life because life felt too heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And while I'm not indicting anybody that's doing that, because I understand, what I'm saying is just be mindful that you're not just scrolling social media. You are disassociating
Yeah.
yourself from life.
Mhm.
And that can be just as bad as the comparison that we see with
Yeah.
social media.
And
So,
Gerard got off social media, except for ministry stuff, because he was like, it's just too much. He deleted
mhm.
everybody. I said, you gonna add me back, but you can delete everybody else. Like,
That's why I
don't
got
add
this
me
friend
back.
request.
Yeah, so he got off of yeah, he because our ministry is through Facebook, so he couldn't completely
Hmm.
delete it, but he just cleared his friend list, except for me. And I
Yeah,
said, you gonna keep me on there. But yeah, he
you
was just
should.
like, he was like, it's just too much. He was like,
Yeah.
seeing everything going on with everybody. And like you said, it's not even necessarily the comparison component, but sometimes you see something or you see somebody and it's like, oh man, I could have had that. I should have been that way. Look at how far they've gone. We grew up together and look at them doing all and then
Hmm.
the next thing you know, it's like, what am I doing? So yeah, he got off. So and everybody will be like, "Well, what happened to Gerard? We're not friends anymore. Is he mad at me?" I'm like, "No, he couldn't completely get off because of ministry, but he just cleared his friends list because he was like,
And
I don't want to see it."
and then that's something that's going back to giving people their stuff back. Why do you
Yeah,
assume that I'm rejecting you just because we're not friends on the social media?
yeah.
On the social media, Lord,
How old are you?
I have gone into a
Ah.
different age group, Lord. But like what this thinking that we're actually close on social media, unless we really are close, like
Yeah,
why do you feel rejected by that?
yeah.
Why does that make you automatically think that you did something wrong? But that's for that person to process through. But I'm
Yeah.
just thinking like,
We can between all these clinical classes, we can throw out all kind of questions for the people. But
look,
I do want to be valuable of your time and those of our viewers. So what last words of I mean, you dropped a whole bunch of knowledge. I really think this
oh,
is
thank you.
another one of them sessions where people can sit back and just watch it over and over again and pick up new information. But just to wrap it up, what's the last, I guess, takeaway that you want people to take with them when they leave here?
Yeah. And we need to get into the good stuff, but also let me that'll be for the book. I'm gonna need
Yeah,
y'all to
you
buy
can
the book.
save some for the book, but you can also come back another time.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
There's no question. But I would just say take time to know yourself. Like that sounds so simple, but it's not. It's hard. It's hard to know yourself. It's hard to learn yourself, especially when you have so many messages to tell you you're supposed to be somebody else, or you grew up in an environment where you didn't feel free to express yourself, or you didn't receive the things that you needed in childhood. Like I take the time to really learn yourself, know your good, bad, and indifferent, and celebrate all of them. For a very long time, I was so hard on myself because I would look at my flaws, and that would be what I would focus on. It would be, oh, I should have done this. Oh, I should be this. Oh, I should be that. And it's good to acknowledge them, but not to focus on them, because there are so many great things about each one of us that get overlooked when we just focus on the areas that we need to work on. And for a long time, I was so focused on working through the trauma, working through the different areas of my life that I wanted to improve upon, that I never stopped to take time to celebrate who I am. And that's another thing that I'm being very intentional about, celebrating who I am, telling myself, you are amazing. And that feels very uncomfortable to say sometimes. Like, you are wonderful. I'm like, oof, what?
You ain't
But
lying.
like even just saying, oh, you're beautiful. Like Like I get that these are simple things, but I think some simplicity is necessary because um we're complex but simple beings. So I would just say like take the time to really learn yourself. And if you can, find somebody that can support you in that process because it's not an easy process and it's really hard to do it alone. But if you have someone that supports you in figuring out who you are, try new things, explore, don't do anything harmful, but try new things, try things the very thing that you always tell yourself you can't do, try to do it and then go from there. Because the one thing I know for certain is that we genuinely only get one life.
Yeah.
And when that life is over, it's over.
And sometimes
That's
it's
it.
over long before we thought it would be.
I've outlived the two people I lost in my life. I've outlived them. And I know all too well that I don't want to leave this earth, Lord. I don't want to leave this earth with regret and
Yeah.
say, man, I wish I had done A, B, C, and D.
Yeah, I feel you. Much love, much respect, much wisdom dropped on today. It's inevitable. We're gonna have to have you back soon. There's so much more to talk about. There's so much more to share with the people. And I know, I mean, even though we've been through such different things, we've also been through a lot of similar things. And so I know y'all people out there may not know, but anytime we get together, it's so genuine and so uplifting. And I know if you say it, then it's true. Like, because I know you're not gonna play around. Like
Oh, okay.
I know you're not gonna say, "Oh, ain't nothing wrong with what you did." If it really like you're gonna tell me the truth, and I'm going to be able to receive it because I respect the relationship we have, but also because I know you're not the type of person that's gonna just try to get something out of it for themselves. You're going to be genuine and honest, and I can appreciate that. And more people should be like that in life, but that's
Yeah.
another soapbox for another
Yeah.
day.
And one last, I want to say, like, for people that listen to this, hear us, but also hear that this was a process for us, and we're still going through a process. So I think
Yeah.
sometimes we can hear gurus, preachers, people like you and I, because I don't know what to call us. We just great,
I was gonna
right?
say I don't even.
We don't have titles and such. We're
We're
just
just
good people.
here.
But you can hear people say these things, and we went through a process to get here, and we're still in the middle of processes. So I don't want anyone to ever think that you have to be there right now, or if you're not there right now, something's wrong with you. No.
Because if you look at, and I not too long posted the my very first video that I did with ZMR Ministries, I was so uncomfortable. Like I think I literally sweated through the clothes that I had on when I did
Mhm.
that session. And I literally had to stop and start the recording like 5 to 8 times because I was just so nervous. And I was like, oh, I mispronounced that word. Oh my God, look how I look. I can see
I've done
myself.
it.
I don't want to see myself. If I can just
Yep.
do this without looking at myself. And I was like, can I just send you an audio? I don't want to look at me while I
Mhm.
do this. Like I can't. Oh, and then I can hear my own voice. I don't want to hear my own like trust me, y'all, it is a process.
It
And
really
3
is.
years down the road, I hope I can look back at this and be like, oh, I should have done that. I could have done this. I could have did that. Like I want to have grown. I don't, that used to be a hang up for me too, thinking I would get to a certain place and I will have made it and there will be no more room for growth. And it's like, that's a lie. Like you're always growing. If you got some sense about yourself, you're always growing. There is no such thing as perfection on this side. We can just keep working to improve ourselves.
Absolutely. Because
Yeah.
the next video, I'm like, oh, this double chin gone. I hear
Come
you.
on. Look, and I don't know what I'm doing. My hair is gonna be back locked or it's gonna be gone.
Remember last time when we did the video, I had that double chin. It's gone
You
now,
still
girl.
cute though. Who gonna say something?
It's growth.
Yeah. Listen, and like I said, who knows? If you feel like pulling your chair back out next time you're around, let me know. Michelle used to do my hair, y'all. Michelle also had her own salon for a while. So she'd be very modest, but Michelle has done it all. So when you saw my locks years ago, Michelle started those and maintained those for the longest. And then I was like, I'm gonna comb them out and start over. And that was what, a year and a half ago, and I still ain't started over because Michelle ain't pull her chair back out. But that's okay. It's okay.
You know what? Thank you. You know what? Sometimes I don't remember all the things that I've done because I just be doing stuff.
Yeah, I feel you.
Like So thank you for reminding me. I really don't, I, I don't know. I just be like, what's the next season?
I
What's the
feel
next
you.
thing we doing? But
Yeah.
thank you for
Well,
reminding me.
all
I
of our
did.
viewers, thank you for tuning in. You know, it's always a good time when we have Michelle on here, and we will have her again because y'all, if y'all can't tell, it's some stuff we could go about. But
Yeah.
we're gonna let y'all go this evening. Thank you again, Michelle. Thank you to all of our viewers. Make sure you continue to tune in to McCullar Family Ministries. We are happy to have you, and you